We had about 600 partners, but we weren't really sure about anything. We didn't know who they were, how involved they were. A lot of this, like the data wasn't there in terms of size or engagement up until that point.
Hello, welcome, and thank you for tuning into Channel Voices, the podcast for future channel leaders, where we learn the ins and outs of partner ecosystems through casual conversations with channel professionals from a variety of industries, partner types, and geographies. My name is Maciek, and I'm your host. Today's guest, despite her young age, comes with a wealth of customer and partner success experience gathered in the world of SaaS. As of September 2019, she's been leading the global partner success organization at Signavio. In this episode, she shares her knowledge and how-to around starting a partner success organization and when a company should start implementing it as part of their channel strategy. Megan Winters, welcome to Channel Voices.
Oh, thanks, Maciek.
So, Megan, you're now leading the partner success organization at Signavio.
Yeah.
And I understand that your background is customer success. Obviously, both organizations or both type of roles have the success word in it, but there is difference, right? That there's the end user and there's the partner.
Mm-hmm.
So, from your experience, what are the main differences between customer success and partner success?
Yeah, do you know what? They're actually fundamentally different, even though they're similar. And I think partner success kind of grew out of customer success. And it's definitely how I found this particular role for myself, because the skill sets are very, very similar too. But what's fundamentally different about them is the goal that you're trying to achieve. I think with customer success, most organizations, you're trying to determine the outcomes for that end customer. So you're saying, I need this customer to renew. I don't want them to churn. And if I'm selling a SaaS product, I probably want them to try and expand. That might be my sales technique. So I need them to onboard. I need them to start engaging with the products. I need to know at 6 months they're using it fully or their churn risk is increased. But with partner success, you're not so much saying, here is the path that you have to follow. And if you don't, it's a red flag for me. You're actually working with the partner as a little team to say, what's the best course for you? What do you need to be successful? And a lot of it might be the same stuff, but you're not trying to force anybody down a particular route because every partner is different. They all have their own value proposition. They have their own product or their own skill set. And it's not a one size fits all the way a lot of customer cases would be. Because ultimately with customers, you're trying to get them to do the same thing, which is increase adoption and become totally reliant on you so that they never leave, But yeah, like the skill set of what you need to be a customer success manager and a partner success manager is almost exactly the same these days, particularly when customers or customer success managers have to upsell the whole time too.
Right. Okay. That's a very good rundown of the differences. So partner success organizations, you don't really hear about them all the time, the way you hear about customer success. Obviously, it is definitely new, right?
It's new for sure.
So not many companies even come to the realization that they might need a role like that within their company or organization in full, depending on how many partners obviously they have and how many different types. So when do you think should an organization start considering implementing partner success? Are there any, I suppose, are there any signs within the business that would dictate a need for partner success?
Yeah, I would say if you start to notice that you're accumulating dormant partners, that you maybe signed so many partners, but you don't have the time in the day to work with them all. And then you start to realize, geez, it's been a while since I heard from that one, or it's been 6 months and I haven't had a chance to check in. You're already gone past the point when you should have started to implement some kind of success program, so it's always easier to spot where you've gone wrong, I think. I would say if you have the wherewithal to do it or the foresight to do it or the energy or the time, you'd almost want to start your partner success thing straight away when you start doing any partner organization at all. And it can be really bare bones. But even if you're just saying to yourself, what is the onboarding experience for this partner going to be? And then you put together a document that says, here's the person you contact for support. Here's the person you contact for deals. Here's how we think about our sales process, and send it to them. You've already started and you're giving a partner something to work with. And I think that's it. As soon as you start to think about what's it going to be like for the partner trying to deal with my organization? You're already starting to build up that partner success straight away. And yeah, even if it's just a welcome email, you're doing something and you're letting people know. Now you can go and you should go a bit more in depth with that, but maybe that's enough for the beginning. And then once you have 10, 20, 30 partners, then you have some data you can work with. You have groups that you can deal with, and you can start to put in place processes for each of those different types of partners that you might have.
So are you saying that some companies are already doing that without labeling it as partner success?
Yeah, I would think so, because you don't need, if you have 2 partners or 3 partners, you don't need a dedicated partner success team, just like you maybe don't need a dedicated customer success team straight away either. But if you're starting to just try and think about what it's like for them, as opposed to there's the money machine, you're already doing something in line with it, yeah. And you could be building on stuff that you're not even aware you're doing already.
Right. And in terms of the actual partner success organization, the role that you're in,
Mm-hmm.
How do you help partners? How do you differentiate yourself from either your competitors or other vendors that might be doing something similar? How do you help your partners?
Yeah, the differentiation is interesting. When I took this role in the first place, I did go looking for podcasts like this, or got onto Medium and I went looking for blogs or something like that. And really, there's no information about what other people are doing out there. Nobody's really talking about it yet. So when I was building up what I was doing, I was kind of saying, well, what would I want if I was a partner? So it's not really influenced by anybody else. And I'm not entirely sure how other companies do this, with the exception of SAP, because we're starting to get an insight into that now that we're about to be SAP ourselves. So all I try and think about to be successful on this one is, and it's a bit crude, I suppose, but we want partners to make more money with us, and that's it. So I'm not doing my job properly if we're not making more money with partners. And there's lots of nice fluffy stuff that goes along with that. There's events and there's webinars and there's gifts and all that kind of stuff. But ultimately, like, I could be spinning my wheels here forever if we're not closing bigger deals with our partners, and if we're not closing deals faster with our partners. So they're the only 2 milestones I really think about. And everything that I do is geared towards achieving those 2 things. And that's it. So how do we actually do that? I suppose, like, there's a lot of ways, there's, every partner is different, but we started things with putting onboarding into place for all partners, so everybody at least gets off on the right foot. So everybody gets a similar onboarding, they get guided towards basic technical training, they get access to sales enablement content, and they also start to understand more about the community that we're trying to build around partners, because you've got your partner managers, they're doing all the commercial work, they own the accounts, they have a great relationship with their partners. But they're also busy people, right? So then you've got your partner success managers, and they can help out with making sure that you're ready for demos, that you understand what you're trying to sell, that the joint value proposition is really clear, and that if you need to access training, if you need to access content, if you need battle cards, if you need to organize things with marketing, we can be there for that. And we can help kind of plug the gaps where if somebody isn't there and if someone can't help, the partnership might just fall away. And that's harder to quantify, actually. It's very hard to say, well, we prevent bad things from happening. I mean, I don't want to compare myself to a religion, but...
Oh, that's a touchy subject.
Show off the shoe fits.
Oh my goodness, great. So you did talk about, these things are tangible. There's the 2 things that that you really focus on as end goals. Is there any other metrics that you use today, or that you're thinking of implementing? Anything from, I don't know, partner engagement to how many deal registrations do you get? How involved partners are? What other things do you look at?
Yeah, it's interesting, because if you don't own the account, what metrics can you track? And what ultimately falls into your purview? What are you influencing? That was an interesting one, trying to figure out where we should be tracking things. And I do believe that if you're not doing a baseline survey and then some data collection, you're at absolutely nothing. Like, you shouldn't even bother setting up or trying to have these departments or these teams if you're not going to be doing that, because then you don't really know what you're achieving, and you could just be busy, and taking up time and organizing things and sending out nice emails. But what's the point of it all? What we're trying to track, what we said in the first place when we set this up, was, how are we going to engage partners, and how are we going to try and stop partners from falling away? So the biggest metric for us is continual partner engagement. And does that actually lead then to deals coming in? Because you could have someone doing loads of emailing back and forth and doing all the trainings online and ticking all the metrics that you think that they should, but if it's not actually generating any revenue for either of us, it's not a worthwhile partnership. It's not actually helping us with anything. So they're the things that we try and keep track of, like engagement, and then where is that actually going? So trying to cross-reference them with deals that are coming in. Like, you obviously have to be careful as well that, like, you don't want to say to people, I'm not going to engage with you if there's no money coming in, because that's not how a good relationship works, especially business relationships like that. But then you don't want to fall into a situation where the squeaky wheel is getting the grease either. And just because somebody is emailing you 10 times a week and you're spending all your time emailing them back, but then you haven't checked in with your Deloittes or your KPMGs or whatever for 5 months, that's also very, very bad. So you do have to follow the money a little bit. You do have to follow the engagement with it. But ultimately, that's it. You want to have this kind of metric of engagement matched with the revenue that's coming in.
Yeah.
And drive towards that.
Yeah, excellent. So, Megan, one of the things you keep mentioning is the partner engagement, right? And it's
Yes.
it's so important. It's so important for you as a vendor to have that engagement with the partner, but also for partners as well, because they obviously need things or need help or need assistance or need maybe a little bit of guidance in some situations. But if the partners are not engaging to the level of your liking, like you said, you don't want to be greasing the squeaky wheel when there's no money coming in. But is there any incentives that you're running for your partners to keep them more engaged?
That's interesting. I know gamification is a big topic these days and people talk about it quite a bit. And in fact, our customer organization within Signavio do work on gamification because they need to generate engagement all the time. But I don't think gamification is appropriate when you're trying to deal with partners. And I'll tell you why. If they want to work with you, they'll work with you. And if they have something that they need from you, they'll come and get it. You're not going to, if they're trying to deal with a particular partner in a new industry, and say that industry is the banking insurance industry, if they want content from you around that, they'll come and ask for it, and they'll ask for help to approach this customer, and they'll figure out what they want to do with it. But if you have a cool badge on your online or e-learning platform that if they do the banking and insurance industry fun course, nobody's going to do it because nobody cares until they actually have a deal for that. So I think I don't think gamification is appropriate for partners. But when we're trying to think about how we engage with them and what it is that we need to do, maybe it helps if I go back and explain how we even got started in this in the first place.
Yeah, sure.
So when I joined Signavio and I had to set up the partner success organization, we had about 600 partners, but we weren't really sure about anything. We didn't know who they were, how involved they were. A lot of this, like the data wasn't there in terms of size or engagement up until that point. And we had to figure out how we started working with all these people and producing the content that they needed and making sure that they had something that they could work with. But we didn't really understand who they were. So the first thing we did was actually started to classify them, which we did as quickly as we could because you could spend 6 months doing that. We did it with life cycle phases. So we just said, okay, where are our partners? Are they onboarding? Are they enabled on the basics? Are they business as usual? And we maybe came up with 4 or 5 different life cycle stages. And we went through the partners one by one and said, where are they? And overwhelmingly, we found maybe 85% of our partners were stuck in this onboarding phase where they had signed a contract, they hadn't done a deal yet. We didn't really know where they were. We definitely knew they hadn't done any training. So we started going from there and we said, let's deal with the onboarding section of our partners first. So to put that into place, we got a few online platforms because we also started to think that scale is going to be an issue here. And we really can't design a one-to-one system where we do an onboarding call with everybody and we check out that. We don't have the time for it, especially when I was a one-person team, like that's just not possible. So we said, let's make this a self-service thing. Let's guide people through a learning that they can take if they want. And if they don't want it, that's okay. And we don't have to renew our contract together. But if they do want it, now we're really building on something. So we got an e-learning platform. We got Docebo in the end. So we can do some courses in there. We can provide content quite easily. But we can also quite easily take it down. We can improve it. And we can really take the feedback from partners about it. So that let us kind of give people self-service and asynchronous access to all the stuff that they needed to go for deals or build up opportunities, put in some slide decks, put in some battle cards, whatever it is that they need. But we also got a partner portal for deal registration and for community building. So those 2 portals or platforms, whatever you want to call them, work really well together. And it lets a partner have a one-stop shop where they say, okay, I know I have a partner manager and I know I have a partner success manager, but I need an answer right now. So I'll go and see, can I get it online first? And if I can't, then I can reach out to them and I can figure out what we're going to do together. And we built up all the onboarding stuff we thought people needed first to get started. So even things as basic as how does Signavio handle leads? That's the kind of information we were thinking, why would a partner submit a lead to us if they don't know what happens to it? Why would they give us information if they don't know how we're going to approach it, how we're going to qualify, how we're going to contact that person, or how we plan to work with them? So we provide all that information up front in a nice kind of learning plan. That's your first week at Signavio, your first month at Signavio, which is actually, we weren't sure if that was a good use of our time, but when we look at our statistics, that's consistently the one course that's done by nearly every single partner who joins. And all the consultants come in, they say, okay, that's information I actually need to understand what to do. And then when it gets into our sales plays or how we go after particular client segments, that's always the next thing that's second on the list. Now that we're kind of done, I don't want to say done because the work is never completely finished, but we have a lot of stuff there for onboarding. So now we're thinking for 2021, what about the partners who understand our basic plays, who understand how to work with Signavio, who know what we do with leads, who are doing business with us anyway? How do we develop that segment? So that's where we're focused on this year, trying to build up that slightly more expert level partner and producing the content that they would need, how to be better with the tool, how to, I suppose, go after bigger clients, how to handle bigger objections, how to do more joint sales with us. Yeah, that's where we're kind of looking at it this year. So trying to really think about what the partner needs in this point. And I think the engagement just comes from there then, because if you build it, they will come. If it's awful, they'll stay away.
Right. So I was hearing a couple of really good things there. So obviously, designing a program like that is one thing, right? And knowing where to focus first, understanding where your partners are within their partner journey, or you called it the life cycle. So there's different stages that the partners go through before they are, I don't want to say 100% self-sufficient, but in those cases, they do have the online resources where they can log in and pull the information that they need. The systems that you have put in place are absolutely crucial because scalability is of huge importance and can be a massive challenge, right? So you need a way to automate some of that stuff and make partners more self-sufficient than they would have been otherwise, because they can find information whenever they need it. In those terms, with all of these things put together, what makes it a very well-oiled machine? Like what are the other aspects that make it work really, really well?
I would say there is a big piece of work done behind the scenes, and partners it doesn't look like anything. You would never see it. There's nothing, we didn't produce content around this or anything like that. It's the internal alignment takes a long time, but it's absolutely crucial. And if you don't get that done, if you don't talk to sales, to support, to customer success, to marketing, to product, because partners touch every single department within companies. And if all of those teams aren't aligned on how we're going to approach partners and what we're doing with them, you really are wasting your time and you're just annoying everybody else, including the partners, with what you're doing. So if you're not internally aligned, if people don't understand what you're trying to do, if they don't agree with it to a certain extent, or they can make their peace with it, and if everybody doesn't understand their part to play in that, it's going to fall apart, and it's going to show partners how misaligned you are internally, because we're all in one company, but every company has little silos here and there, and you kind of miss each other on things. It happens everywhere. But if you just take the time to sit down and discuss it, if you share the documentation, people have one look at it and they can say, right, I can make my peace with it. That's fine. I can go along with that. I feel informed. That was a really big piece of work. But if without it, I don't think anything would work. And right now, like, our partner success process works very smoothly. Partners get a very smooth onboarding. They understand what's expected of them. They understand what they can expect of us. We can deal with any objections, or we can deal with any clarifications. If someone feels that they need something different to the standard, that's totally fine. If that's what they need, that's what they will get. It's not about, well, you have to fit into the box, and if you don't, you're not right for us. The onboarding is just a baseline for people that they can build off. And from the onboarding, they can say, okay, this wasn't good enough for me in this area. I need more on that. But without the onboarding, they would never even know that that was their gap, So if you don't get that internal alignment, if you don't get everybody agreeing and singing off the same hymn sheet, you're absolutely wasting your time. And the second thing is, if you're not talking to partners all the time, like, you cannot be precious about whatever it is that you've built. You have to be able to take the feedback, and you could produce something and think it's great, but actually it's not hitting the mark, it's not resonating with anybody, and nobody sees the point in, you're better off just taking it down and throwing it away and putting in something that's better and that's actually useful for people. Like, I would rather provide 2 pieces of useful content than 10 pieces of meh, kind of okay content.
Mm-hmm.
It needs to be useful. People need to understand that when they're talking to you, when they're dealing with Signavio as a company, they're going to get the answers, they're going to understand what's needed, and they're going to be listened to. And that's one of the functions too. It's a very oblique kind of thing to be trying to do, partner success, because you represent a lot of things and you deal with a lot of teams. You have to be aligned. You have to be kind of a peacemaker and a consensus builder, but also you need to be producing producing results too at the same time. So it's a bit of a balancing act.
Very good. I was thinking that not only the human element as being the glue for this, but getting the buy-in from all the different departments, making sure that they understand the benefits of you starting a partner success organization, and how is that going to help not only the partners but also internally those people that are in some way involved, be it marketing or be it sales, right? I mean, the number one contact for a partner is typically their partner manager within a company. So if
Yes.
they are aware of where to find things and how partner success can support them on an ongoing basis, now that obviously helps, and it doesn't only help the partner, but it also helps the partner manager, because they can then steer us, not necessarily steer the partner, but help them get to either to the right content or close a deal quicker, or make sure that they know how to do things I suppose in your world, right? Partners on average work with what, 12, 15 different vendors, right?
Yeah, if
If
not
not
more.
more. I mean, so getting their mind share and making them self-sufficient, but also kind of putting you in front of their customers ahead of a competitor that they also might be working with, and making that as easy as possible for them to do. That's where I believe the success of the partner might come from.
Completely. And we've all been there on the other side of it when you're trying to get information out of a company you're working with because you want to get something going and you feel like you're hitting a blank wall and everybody says, I'm not sure, I have to ask, and then you have to chase them. It's a bad experience, and you just kind of think to yourself, oh, do you know what? Maybe it'd be easier if I just asked this other company. And it's as easy as that you can lose your deals, you can lose your partnerships, you can lose your business, whatever else is going on. So trying to prevent that, trying to make it easier for people to access what they need, to let people know your limits as well, that you can say, look, here's where I can help with things. But after this point, you need to speak to that person, is better than saying, gee, God, I'm not quite sure. Let me find out. Like, it's easier if people just have the facts. Here's what I do. Here's what they do. If you contact the wrong person, we'll redirect you, but we're not going to waste your time. That's much, much better. Like, and it's easier to say, here's the stuff that we have. If it's not good enough for you, if this is not what you needed to see, let's have a one-on-one conversation rather than endlessly redirecting through a nameless, faceless portal. Because at the end of the day, business is all about relationships, So it's nice to have an online portal that you can look at, and it's nice to be able to access this content when you need it. But also, if you never have contact with anybody else, you don't know who they are, it's very easy to lose that connection and lose that relationship and that touch. And, myself and the partner managers, if we didn't have strong relationships with each other, if we weren't able to openly discuss what was going on, and if we didn't have, I suppose, the culture of trust internally as well, where you could say, you know what, I did forget to send that email, or here's what I did in this situation, and here's the reasons that I did it, and everybody can trust and respect each other. If you didn't have that type of setup as well, this whole thing would fail, because people wouldn't be able to rely on each other. They wouldn't be able to show that united front and just work together to make it easier for the partner. So that internal alignment piece is difficult to set up in the first place, but then very rewarding and very easy to maintain, and much easier then to explain internally what your partners are doing too. Because I do find when you get in organizations that people want partnerships, they think partnerships are good and a good idea, and they'll set revenue goals, and it could be up to 50% that, we want this much money to come out of our partnerships. But we also want to invest absolutely nothing in building up those partnerships. And we don't really know what they need, but it seems to be making money. So we're not really sure why we would put money into it when it's doing its own thing anyway. So you do need to be, I suppose, prepared internally to work with your partners, invest in them, do the marketing events, whatever it is that you need to do to build up everybody's profile together.
Absolutely. And it was in the last episode that I recorded with Oliver Roth, also out of Germany, co-founder of Prianto Distribution. So they get contacted by 10 vendors on average per week that the vendors want to work with them. But there are a couple of things that they look at when they're thinking about signing up another vendor. Product and the actual fit to the portfolio is number one. But number two is the investment. What is the vendor going to invest into not only raising the profile, but how are they going to support them at the very beginning? Onboarding is one thing, but that initial investment, how are they going to help them get the word out into the market, especially for a vendor that is not known yet within that geography. And if those two things don't align or they can't see, they will definitely will not work with those vendors. And to Oliver's point, they do decline quite a lot of requests of partnerships.
Yeah.
And there are partners out there who are hunting to work with certain vendors because it suits their business model and the product fits, or the services fit, right? So there's the two ways, right? Partners want to work with vendors, but then on the other hand, some vendors absolutely need partners to enter a certain geography or a country, and for many different reasons, right? Scalability, one of those. So you've got a lot of really good points about what to do, I suppose, when you're starting the partner success organization. But if you were to give us maybe top 3, what would those be? If you're thinking about starting partner success organization, these are the top 3 things you must think of and do.
Okay. Figure out your biggest need and start there. It's like what I had said about us figuring out that 85% of our partners are actually stuck in the onboarding phase. That's the biggest need, and you can't do everything straight away. So just figure out the biggest need and start there, and you'll go from there. There's no point putting in a 24-month plan straight away. Get your first thing done and then see what has arisen out of that. Like, where are people going? The second thing for sure is just do an MVP and develop that MVP. Don't spend 9 months trying to figure out a perfect program and launch it and then figure out it's not really hitting the mark. Just get an MVP going, start doing things, and you can build it up, you can get feedback, you can make it better. But yeah, don't waste time trying to fine tune something. And then the third is just don't be precious. Take the feedback. It's you've built it, you think it's great, maybe it's not.
Right.
And you're probably going to be the right person to fix it because you've built it and you know what it is. But if you won't take the feedback, you're really going to make your own life very, very hard. And there's so many different partners, right? So you have to be very careful of the feedback that you're listening to as well. Just because one person says, well, I didn't particularly enjoy it or it wasn't useful for me, doesn't mean that it's not perfect. You really want to go looking for that feedback, not taking ad hoc comments and feeling your life crumble beneath your feet.
Right.
So that's it. Go for your biggest need first, do an MVP and develop it, and just get lots and lots of feedback about what's working for people. They're the only 3 things you need to do. And that can be done fairly simply and fairly quickly, or very expensively and very thoroughly as well. So it's whatever you have to invest, how many partners you have. Do you have one type of partner or do you have 50 types? Like, there's so many things that can influence it. It will always be different, but those 3 rules won't see you wrong.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Megan. And there's a question that I always love to ask at the end because it's very interesting and it's very rare today. Hopefully this will change, but it's very rare that people decide to go and work with partners, right? Going into channel, right? Is like, you go to college, you go to university, and you decide, you know what, I want to work within the channel. So there's very few people like that. What would be the biggest thing that you wish you knew before you started your career in channel?
Is always helpful when you know more about the world around you. You're dealing with so many different types of partners. You deal with so many industries. So it's fascinating in its own way. You get these glimpses into depending on the type of partner that you work with or the type of customer you work with, you're seeing these industries you never worked in, you're seeing these cultures that you never saw before, like work cultures, depending on where they are. It could even just be like the country culture and things like that. So just having an open mind is the one thing that will actually get you further when you're dealing with partners. You have to be willing to listen to people and willing to take on board what you're hearing and work with it. Once you have that, you can't go wrong, actually. Then you're just listening and building up things with people, and it's really, really fun. But yeah, if you don't like people, you do not want to work in channel. This is 100% not the place for you.
Yeah, it's channel, right? It's partners. It's about partnerships. You better like working with people.
If you don't find people that interesting, this will be very difficult for you.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Megan Winters, thank you so much for being a guest on Channel Voices. We would love absolutely to check in with you again in the near future to see what else have you got cooking in the rise of the partner success organization. I'm sure there's a lot more that you have planned, and we're really looking forward to see how this whole organization develops, not only in Signavio, but see if any other companies are going to follow this trend now.
I think they will, and if my LinkedIn inbox is anything to go by, there's a lot of companies trying to start partner success organizations. But if we check back in a year's time, I'll be able to explain to you what happened over the acquisition by SAP and what we had to do to make that work. And I think that's going to be very interesting, because that's not something I've gone through either before. But SAP are very, very well versed in this. And we're really dealing with the best, I would say, in that opportunity. So yeah, no, I would absolutely love to come back. Thank you for having me. It was a really interesting conversation. I never get to talk about partner success. Nobody does it.
Fantastic.
Nobody cares.
Oh, we're so happy that we were able to give you the forum for this. We will, if you don't mind, we will stick stick your LinkedIn profile link in the show notes. So if people want to reach out, are they okay to reach out to you and ask you a couple of questions?
Absolutely, yeah. I'd love to talk more about this and see more of a partner success community.
Fantastic. Excellent. Yeah. Megan Winters, thank you so much.
It's totally my pleasure, Maciek. Thank you.
Thank you. And that's a wrap for this episode. I do hope you found it valuable, and if you did, please make sure to subscribe and leave a review. You can also follow Channel Voices Podcast on LinkedIn, Twitter and Facebook, or just visit channelvoices.com, where you can send me a message or leave a voicemail. All of the links are listed in the show notes, and once again, I appreciate you tuning in today. Until next time.